This year, we're visiting a new locale, Dorn, for the first time. We've met some Dornish folks before, Oberyn Martell and Ilaria Sand, and Oberyn sadly did not make it through season 4.
We travel as far south as south goes, as they say in Westeros, and visit his family, the Martells, who are the ruling house of Dorne.
We had a hint last year of the characters we introduced from Dorne, and so this year we had the challenge of creating a place that was luxurious and pleasant and warm, a place where people enjoyed themselves.
This is a new country for Game of Thrones, so it's exciting.
Well, it feels like Dorne was always meant to be a vaguely Mediterranean country.
Because the key location was the Water Gardens, we wanted to find some place where the gardens really were remarkable.
Seville in Spain was the natural place for us to start, and we were absolutely beyond lucky being able to shoot in the Alcazar.
Once we found out we were allowed to shoot in the Royal Gardens, we realized that there's nowhere on Earth that looks more like the Water Gardens as we'd pictured them than this place.
I think only one movie has been permitted to shoot there before for a very limited time, and we got to shoot there for an entire week, and both in the gardens and in a room that's maybe the most spectacular room I've ever seen.
Some of the spaces that we were filming in were 500 years old, and they have that kind of ancient culture that they were looking for, but also the opulence.
It's the kind of thing you could never build as a set.
As the shoot sort of moved through, they would close off, certain corners, so we could have it to ourselves and not be interrupted by the public. But what it meant was that we had these extraordinary gardens to ourselves.
And we're just incredibly grateful to the Spanish government for letting us shoot in truly one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen.
Your brother was murdered. You sit here in the Water Garden staring at the sky and doing nothing.
Ilaria is a hot-blooded woman, and she wants revenge. And so she returns to Dorne seeking revenge. And there we meet Oberyn's brother, the Prince of Dorne, Prince Doran.
He's very good at playing the political game.
You're not quite sure what he's going to do or not do about the death of his brother.
What will you do about his death?
I will bury him. I will mourn for him.
And then?
Doran is a real diplomat. He's someone who's trying to make peace all the time. He doesn't want to lead his country into war.
He'll be charming and mean it, but he'll be keeping something in reserve.
You haven't had to use that axe of yours in a long time.
No, my prince.
Hotard, he's this mountain of a man who makes sure that I don't get into trouble.
I hope you remember how.
I remember how.
He's the right-hand man to the Prince of Dorne. His whole motto is serve, protect, and obey.
And we meet the Sand Snakes, who are 3 of Oberyn's 8 daughters.
You must choose Doran's way and peace, or my way and war.
Nim is Oberyn's middle child. Younger sister is Tyene, older sister is Abara, and we're the Sand Snakes.
We work very well as a unit and fight, love to fight, very violent. We learned that from our father.
Tyene's the youngest one. She's the daughter of Ilaria. She knows us very well. She knows how much we want revenge.
For Oberyn.
For Oberyn. She manages to make us focus on our mission.
I play Obara Sand and I wield a spear, which is the same as Oberyn Martell. Nymeria has a whip and daggers, and Tyene has double daggers.
The first time I went to stunt training, we weren't sure who was gonna have what, so I tried out the whip, which is really, really hard and just not really right for my body and size and everything. And then I tried the daggers and I was like, oh yeah, this is my weapon.
I'd never touched a whip before then, and it's an 8-foot bull whip, the real one. I injured myself more than anyone else in those first sessions.
I've been training in the martial art of wushu, which was the training that Pedro Pascal had as well. Even though they all have different methods or different ideals of how they'll avenge Oberyn's death, essentially it is going to be easier if they all work together.
That's another of my problems, is keeping these kids under control. I have complicated nieces.
The young man said I'd find the High Sparrow back here. Where is he?
High Sparrow? Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it?
One of the biggest roles this season is the High Sparrow, and we were incredibly excited when we heard that Jonathan Pryce might be interested in the part, and even more excited when we saw him start to work.
The High Sparrow is one of the more intriguing and fascinating characters, I think, in all of A Song of Ice and Fire, and again, one that we've been itching to get to.
I'm driven solely by faith,
Yeah, I have very honest and honorable intentions in everything I do.
Which of course makes other people in the show distrust him even more because they can't believe that anyone would actually be honest. Everyone's playing some kind of secret game.
Hypocrisy is a boil. Lancing a boil is never pleasant. These are bad people, and they need cleansing, as you've seen in previous seasons.
I crossed the narrow sea. I have nowhere else to go.
You have everywhere else to go.
But wait!
This season's one of the biggest in terms of new sets, and House of Black and White, where Arya spends a lot of time in Bravos, is one of those locations from the books we were always excited to get to.
And there's been loads of new sets built specifically for Arya's storyline, which is really, really cool.
The exterior of the House in Black and White is in Dubrovnik, right on the water.
That location was amazing. We were literally right on the water's edge, and the set that they built was huge.
When Arya arrives, she really has no idea where she is.
The doors to the House of Black and White were too... I can't even put it into words how massive they were.
For the exterior that we actually built out in Croatia, we created a facade that, from my perspective, was faceless. I didn't want it to give away at all what was housed inside.
She first enters into the atrium, which is very high-ceilinged and in this weird oval shape, and the perimeter of it is surrounded by different gods.
The House of Black and White is a repository of the thousands of gods that have ever been worshipped throughout all the lands that we visit in Game of Thrones, and Deb took that idea and ran with it.
The House of the Black and White was a huge challenge for Deb Riley and her team. I just thought she did such beautiful work on each one of the different gods that people come to pray to, and the way that they were arranged in the space, and the way they defined the space, and the gorgeous, creepy, dark pool in the middle of the room.
And what the room tries to do is to remain neutral enough that these sculptures can sit there and each have the same level of importance.
It's one thing to describe a place on paper and quite another for Deb and her team to actually build the place that's going to provide that atmosphere for the viewers. And you just want to write more and more scenes for those locations.